But there was a tale of betrayal, personal traumas, and battle beneath all the makeup and pyrotechnics. Paul Stanley has come clean about Ace Frehley today, a man whose tumultuous personality and individual problems frequently overshadowed the band's achievements. The story that develops is one of squabbles, professional mayhem, and the catastrophic results of unbridled ambition. Ace Frehley's skill was obvious the minute he joined Kiss in 1973. His unfiltered, unexpected energy as lead guitarist helped the band create iconic solos on songs like Cold Gin and Shock Main. Although he was brilliant, he was also very unpredictable. In no time at all, Paul Stanley, the perfectionist and Kiss's motor, came into conflict with Frehley's irrational conduct. Paul's incessant pursuit of excellence frequently clashed with Ace's carefree demeanor. There was tension between Stanley, who was trying to keep the band on track, and Frehley, who was becoming increasingly uninterested in rehearsals and taking things at a relaxed pace. When Ace's private life spilled over into his performance, Paul was frequently left to clean up the mess as their relationship devolved into a struggle between professionalism and spontaneity. While taping Dynasty in 1979, tensions were at an all-time high. It was well known at that point that Ace had a problem with substance usage. He caused chaos during recording sessions and got into heated disputes with Stanley and the rest of the band because of his unpredictable conduct. The band's well-deserved reputation was betrayed by Ace's behavior, which Paul saw as more than merely unprofessional. The critics were able to get under Frehley's skin as he acted indifference. Paul Stanley frequently criticized Ace for being unreliable, but the guitarist's private life was also getting out of hand. A well-documented aspect of Frehley's narrative, his struggles with alcohol and drugs greatly affected his relationships both within and outside of the band. Collaboration was tough due to his unpredictable personality, which frequently alienated people who wished to be on his side. All of Frehley's loved ones were affected by the mayhem. A tumultuous divorce in the early 1980s was the result of marital pressure caused by his substance misuse. Despite attempts by friends and bandmates to step in, Ace's intransigence in dealing with his issues widened the gap. Paul Stanley felt more than simply frustration. He felt sadness as he saw Frehley destroy himself. The Ace Frehley's conflicts with Paul Stanley were just the beginning. Stanley's turbulent behavior and erratic nature sowed discord in the Kiss realm and beyond. His tense relationship with Gene Simmons, co-leader of the band and the brains behind its business empire, was one of the most infamous conflicts. Simmons, known for his astute business sense and relentless work ethic, saw Kiss as more than simply a band. He saw it as an ideology that Frehley frequently disapproved of. Ace felt that Kiss had betrayed their rebellious, raw roots when they became a commercial juggernaut. As a result, there was an ongoing back and forth between Frehley and Simmons, with Frehley denouncing Simmons as controlling and money-obsessed, and Simmons accusing Frehley of being uncommitted. There was more than simply philosophy at the heart of their dispute. There was friction between Frehley's carefree personality and Simmons' rigid, borderline militaristic approach to Kiss. Simmons preferred order, while Frehley yearned for freedom. Simmons insisted on tight production, whereas Ace favored a looser, more natural sound, and this disparity became apparent in the studio. Creative decisions frequently led to heated arguments, with Frehley feeling constrained and Simmons becoming more and more irritated by Ace's stubbornness. Peter Criss, Kiss's original drummer, and Frehley, who had a fiery temperament, were at war with each other within the band. Despite starting off as allies, bound together by their shared outsider status in the group, the two eventually drifted apart. An enormous personality clash between the two men, who were both notoriously quick to anger, was inevitable. Their shared battles with substance misuse stoked the flames, raising tensions and producing an unpredictable dynamic that frequently upended the delicate harmony of the band. Attempts to maintain band unity in the face of increasing pressure were on full display during their legendary, emotionally charged arguments. Even after leaving Kiss, Frehley was known as a notoriously difficult collaborator. Collaborating with him was often difficult for producers, other musicians, and industry insiders. His unpredictability and lack of consistency caused many of his collaborators to lose faith in him and eventually leave him. Frehley's inability to commit to long-term commitments due to his unwillingness to follow through on promises or timelines caused many coalitions to fall apart. His already troubled connection with the press only made matters worse for Ace. Frehley took a defiant stance against the press, in contrast to Simmons, who flourished under the limelight and knew how to handle interviews with strategic charisma. In response to queries that he felt were too critical or intrusive, he would frequently be abrupt or rude. His hostile demeanor turned off critics and journalists, who started to see him as a tragic figure who couldn't handle the glamour of stardom. The media's perception of Frehley as an outsider and a wild cannon was further solidified by his defiance of their norms. Whether it's with his bandmates, collaborators, or the media, Ace Frehley's disputes show a guy caught between his emotional turmoil and his enormous skill. Although his refusal to compromise was fundamental to his defiant nature, it frequently cost him the relationships that may have provided him with support. The man behind the guitar solos was profoundly brilliant, but he also had a tendency to undermine himself, and this pattern of discord reflected his inner battles. As a whole, Kiss suffered due to the conflict between Ace Frehley and Paul Stanley. The band's foundational fissures were noticeable by the early 1980s. As his distancing from the group progressed, Ace finally left in 1982. Paul felt relieved and disappointed by Frehley's departure. Not only did it finally put a stop to their never-ending feud, but it also represented Kiss's identity crisis. The drama continued even after Frehley left. The same problems that beset his Kiss career also beset his solo career, which started out promising. As Frehley's actions and their troubled relationship were frequently brought up, Paul and the rest of the band battled to restore the band's reputation. Paul Stanley's memories of working with Ace Frehley are full of paradox, a reflection of the tumultuous collaboration that propelled Kiss to legendary status. He can't ignore Frehley's irrefutable influence on the band, his thrilling guitar solos, his defiant enthusiasm, and his magnetic stage appearance, all of which endeared him to the band's millions of followers. They had worked so hard to establish something, but Frehley's anarchy frequently threatened to destroy it. Stanley saw the musician as a priceless gift and a potential threat at the same time, a dynamic that carved wounds deep enough to rival the riffs they composed in unison. The complexity of Frehley's legacy is comparable. His unadulterated brilliance defines some of Kiss's most renowned songs, and to fans, he is still the spaceman who embodies rock's unfettered energy. He was an integral element of the band's character because to his blazing solos and flamboyant stage presence. However, a man who is frequently at conflict with himself lies beneath the admiration. His accomplishments were overshadowed by his disputes with bandmates, the press, and even his own inner demons. It is the tragic and captivating nature of Frehley's story that stems from the paradox of his brilliant existence and self-destruction. Their shared history as Kiss members is one that was forged in the crucible of conflict. Stanley, who was always meticulous, labored ceaselessly to create an idea of Kiss that went beyond music, but Frehley's capricious behavior jeopardized it at every point. Their union was a precarious tango that produced genius, but also left a wake of regret and stress. Stanley is still struggling to cope with the emotional cost of their troubled relationship, which he must face in order to recognize Frehley's achievements. Frehley views his journey as a mixed bag of regret and possibility. Although his musical abilities ensured his position in rock lore, his private battles frequently took center stage. His story stands as an exemplar of the beloved guitar hero who fell victim to his own vices. The acclaimed musician who drove a wedge between himself and his loved ones. This is a story about the personal cost of being famous and how fleeting stardom can be. Their complex legacy is a sobering reminder of how precarious the path from achievement to self-destruction can be. The legacy they left behind was one of victory and strife, harmony and conflict, but they also created music that defined an age. Their music and the stories behind it are timeless, bearing witness to the intricacies of aspiration and creativity. There is a symphony of contrasts in Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley's story. Ambition versus revolt, structure versus anarchy. In this story, the will to succeed served as both a unifying force and a source of conflict. Their music reached thrilling new heights, but they had to pay a heavy price for that fame. There was a rift in the band with every song that got everybody up and dancing. Imagine instead the electric atmosphere of sold-out venues, the ear-piercing roar of the crowd, and the electrifying performances that shaped a whole generation. However, lies were beginning to emerge beneath the surface, stemming from fears, inflated egos, and the incessant demand to excel. Paul Stanley, who conceived of Kiss's concept, and Ace Frehley, who personified rock's wild side, were complementary figures. Their union was a magical one. Separately, they revealed how precarious artistic collaborations can be. Their journey is a sobering reminder to all Kiss fans that no one ever said it would be easy. An innately human conflict, a fight between stability and spontaneity, between individual expression and communal success, was concealed beneath the gigantic egos and towering riffs. Frehley's tumultuous personality, which fueled his guitar prowess, frequently caused him to clash with the band that initially supported him. As a result of Stanley's doggedness in keeping the band together, friendships were damaged beyond repair. Both Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley leave behind legacies that are characterized by achievement and tragedy. Their quarrels were more than just differences of opinion. They were the furnace where their creativity was refined. The music they made together stands as a monument to the creative tension that characterized their voyage, even though the relationships they shared may have broken. A legacy that has endured through peace and strife. It speaks to people who know what it's like to risk all for greatness.